Hello again. I am, perhaps surprisingly, in view of the fact that it is now Black History Month, not about to speak about Mary Seacole today. I want instead to explain why I have spoken more about her in the past than I have about, say, Florence Nightingale. To many people, the reason is obvious, but to some it still seems that I have it in for Mary Seacole, probably because she was of mixed race. Allow me to explain. If I was producing videos like this in the 1950s or 1960s, then I would, without the shadow of a doubt, have been devoting a lot of time to Florence Nightingale and ignoring Mary Seacole entirely. At that time, you see, Florence Nightingale was a legendary and heroic figure, possibly the most famous woman in British history. This Ladybird book, published in 1959 and costing half a crown, sums up the story as it was propagated at that time. Florence Nightingale saved many lives by what do we have here? Ah, yes, duh, 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 duh. Putting nurses to work, scrubbing the floors, washing the bedclothes. Mm-hmm. Yes, clean beds in properly disinfected wards. Well, that's all a flat lie. Nightingale did nothing of the kind for the simple reason that she did not even believe in germs. As a matter of fact, God had told her that there were no such thing as germs. She believed instead that disease was spread by bad smells, the so-called miasma theory of disease, which was popular in the mid-19th century. Because of this, and because she was acting as she thought entirely under God's instructions, the mortality rate at her hospital in Scutari was 50%. That is to say, half the men sent there caught diseases in the hospital and died of them there. It was not until the army stepped in and cleaned up the mess that the death rate began to fall. This is, of course, precisely the opposite of the myth which we used to learn about Florence Nightingale. According to that, it was those army doctors who were the lazy, dirty ones, and Florence Nightingale who came and sorted things out. I want to make 2 points here. The first is that there is little point these days in debunking the myth of Florence Nightingale's achievements, because most people today know that she was really responsible for thousands of deaths, and that there's little point in celebrating such a disaster. Instead, we have a new mythic figure from that time, another woman who's called Mary Seacole. Just as with Nightingale, exaggerated stories and legends have grown up around her, and this is why I have devoted time to demolishing some of these stories. I might mention that I have published both a video and a very long article about Florence Nightingale, which both dismantle the myth about her. I give links to these in the description to the video. The article, which is quite long, but perhaps viewers rather will find worth reading, is headed Florence Nightingale was a religious maniac, and God told her there were no such thing as germs. Her activities in the Crimea were responsible for thousands of deaths, which gives you a flavour of the thing. It is certainly a sharper denunciation of Nightingale than anything which I have ever had to say about Mary Seacole. I have never accused Seacole of being responsible for thousands of deaths. When all's said and done, the worst I have said about her is that she wasn't a nurse and that she spent time running a restaurant rather than anything else in the Crimea. The idea that I've been saying terrible things about her is because she's black is absolutely ludicrous. I suggest that viewers read that article of mine and watch the video I made about Nightingale, and then compare them to the mild and amusing comments which I have sometimes made about Mary Seacole, and then ask themselves which woman I am harshest about.